Why is it that in relationships it is so hard often for women to feel heard and for men to be with a woman's emotion when she's expressing something without resisting it, without feeling this trigger that, oh, now I'm not enough or something is wrong, we are going to have this fight. So, why is it so hard for the average couple to have this harmony, really? Because at the end of the day, we all, men, women, just want to feel connected to each other. And if there is a misunderstanding, if there is a conflict, we just really want to solve it and harmonize it together. However, it can be so hard because many of us, we grew up without the proper tools to work with conflicts in relationships. So many of us actually grew up witnessing, for example, our parents not knowing how to solve the conflicts, and then there is this constant fight. And then maybe we also witnessed other relatives, friends, their relationships not going very well. And then we also never really learned actually how to be with our own emotions, even let alone being with other people's emotions. For example, with men, they often grow up, they hear, oh, you shouldn't feel this way, you have to be strong, be a man, you are a boy, you cannot be like a girl, and etc. And even with women, we often hear that, oh, you have to behave, be this good girl, take care of other people first, put them first. And you are being too much. You shouldn't be so bothersome. You should always put other people's need first. So then for women, there is often this pattern that, oh, I'm worrying that I'm being too much if I express what I need, what I desire, or what I'm not okay with. And then for men, they have to, simply go on and not be in touch with their emotions. So if they are taught to avoid their own emotions, how can they actually know what to do when someone else's emotions actually show up, right? So there is this very important inner work that I learned in the past years, which really changed my relationships entirely, is that how are we with our own emotions? Like, how is our relationship with our own emotions? And this actually comes from a work called parts work, which is the idea is that inside of us we have different parts of ourselves. For example, imagine that you have this need that you want to be more heard, or like in a relationship, let's say that you want more dates and you want to express it. So there's a part of you inside that really desires more connection, desires more dates, more quality time with your boyfriend, your husband. And then there's this other part of you that say, oh, but it might be too much. If you say that, you might mess up with the harmony. Your boyfriend, husband might not really like it, or he might say no. And then, you have all these parts within you that might be in conflict with each other. And even for men as well, like men, women, we humans have different sides of us because of our inherent needs as humans. We all have core needs for connection, for closeness, and for being seen, heard. And then there are the social conditionings and conditioning when we are growing up that are, oh, you have to be a certain way to be loved. You have to behave. You have to not express certain things, to not be too much. Or if you cannot really be acknowledged, then you are not enough. And so inside of you, there are parts of you that begins to form, begins to grow, that are to actually help you, these parts, it's not like they are inherently mean or cruel, but because like when you grow up hearing that, oh, being a boy and showing your emotions is bad, then this part of you is created internally in your subconscious to remind you that, oh, you need to be strong, because out in this world, being vulnerable is not good. So we have all these parts within us, and yet we don't really often realize it because we don't really pay attention. It's like so automatic, our inner voice, that we often catch ourselves feeling something or wanting something. And this voice will immediately appear, and oh, maybe I shouldn't desire that, maybe I shouldn't say that, I shouldn't ask for that, and maybe he or she wouldn't really understand what I would say or what I would do, etc. So when we begin to be aware of this, and when we learn to start to work with them and how to harmonize them, is actually how we acquire relationship skills. So we can actually learn with mentors, with maybe we have an auntie that is very wise, or maybe a friend, etc. However, we can also learn relationship skills by actually trying to learn how to harmonize, like communicate and harmonize really with the different parts within us. So how this work is, for example, imagine that you are feeling something. Let's say that for a woman, she has a desire of wanting more dates. But then another voice will immediately come and say, oh, I shouldn't ask for that because he probably says no. And then I'll feel rejected. Then the start of this work can look like you looking at the part of you that desires, and then you'll also look at the part of you that says no. First, you can ask, like, okay, where does my desire actually come from? But from a place of curiosity. So you can ask that, hey, the voice that might worry about rejection, let's pause for a second because I want to hear what the other part of me that really desires more dates have to say. And then you ask yourself, really, what is it that makes me desire these dates? What is it that I really want deep down? And then you start to be like your best friend, really. Like, what would you say to your best friend if she's like, oh, I want to have more dates and etc. You wouldn't go there and say, oh, you shouldn't do these kind of things or else you'll get rejected. No, but a best friend would ask, hey, tell me more. Like, well, what is it that you want from more dates and how would it look like? Like, how would a date with your boyfriend, husband would look like? What kind of date that you desire? And you really help your friend get deeper and deeper and tap more and more into her desire. And you wouldn't say, oh, that's too much and etc. But you would actually be encouraging, like, oh, yeah, maybe we can figure out ways that we can try to say that because, I love you so much and you really deserve to have proper quality time, right? And that's what you really desire. And you want to connect to your husband, your boyfriend, your partner. And that connection is important for relationships. So, when you are beginning to change your relationship to your emotions and what you desire, and for example, imagine that your partner, did something that might have upset you, and you feel that you want to communicate with him, but then you are afraid of it. Like your best friend, you wouldn't tell your best friend, oh, you shouldn't talk, it's not good, you'll get rejected or more fights. But you would actually want, if you want her to be happy, right? You would encourage her that, hey, maybe we can come up with a way to speak to him so that you get hurt because this is important. You want to be happy in a relationship. And at the end of the day, you deserve to be happy, right? And and then the more you actually begin to embrace what you desire, what you need, without so much with the other voice, like, oh, you shouldn't do this because it's too much or you'll get rejected. But actually, pause that for a second the moment you catch it, the moment you're aware of it. And then you begin to be like your best friend and help yourself, like, hey, like it's really a valid point because you deep down you deserve this connection with him. And then the moment that you start to change, even if just bit by bit and not just in one day, like you catch yourself every now and then feeling something, and then you are just being your best friend and changing how you speak to yourself internally, this can actually help you change your relationships dynamics. Because what happens is that when you are too self-critical and have this constant voice because you grew up being told that you're too much, that you need to put other people's needs and desires in the first place or take care of others, you develop this critical voice towards yourself. And then what happens is that you resonate with people who speak in similar ways. So people who, upon you expressing how you feel, they might respond to that. And there is also another reason for that, is because when you are like not very sure if you should express something or not, you have this energy really that, oh, I'm not really sure if this is a good idea and etc. Then you go to your partner and then, like I know that it might sound a little bit extravagant, but I would actually love to have more dates. Or you might go there actually feeling that because you worry that you might not get it. So there's already this energy of defensiveness, even that you go there and, hey, I deserve to have more dates and you never plan dates for me. Yeah, because when you're unsure, you will often have this weirdness around how you speak and you don't even realize it. And when the other person feels it, they feel uncomfortable and then they want to fix the situation by actually fixing you, the source of the discomfort in that moment for them. So this would create this weird dynamics in which you just want to express and feel more connected, but then the other person actually feels uncomfortable and then responds with resistance, which ends up validating your worries about being rejected or that he is not really understanding your point. So, when you are actually validating your own needs and desires before you even go there and have the other person's validation, you are already developing a better relationship with your emotions, with your needs, with your desires. So when you express them, it will gradually become more and more natural. And when you are like natural, like, hey, I really love to have more dates. And I would really love for you to take me to a restaurant or a coffee this weekend, etc. It would be really fun. You see how this energy can be very different, and it's not even forceful. It's like you trust that it can happen, that the other person would respond to, because it is something that you find it's already so valid, so natural within yourself, that it's only natural for the other person to respond positively. And if the other person doesn't really respond positively at first, usually people who don't have this critical voice and they have a good relationship with their own needs and desires already, they wouldn't really feel that it's okay, and they would find ways to communicate in a healthy manner and say that, hey, like I it would be really important for me that we feel more connected, and I would love to spend more time together, and I feel that lately we are not really getting there. Is there a way that we can work through this? So you see, this is a very natural way. But often, because we are so much in this weirdness that we have with our own needs and desires, that the moment the other person has some resistance, it is already as if it is validating that, oh, here we go again. I am not heard again. I am rejected again. My needs might be too much. And because of this hurt, we often start to get defensive, like, hey, you don't ever listen to me, like it's always the same. I just want a simple date and you never do it. And then the man would also, get into this fight. Oh, you're often asking for this. Have I not done enough yet? And etc. Even if he actually deep down also wants connection, but because he might also have this trigger of, oh, if she's bringing out something, then I'm not enough. I might not be bringing enough in the relationship as a man. Now he's also having to, defend his own position. But then at the end of the day, it's just two people clashing, butting heads. But deep down, they just want connection. So for men, it's also similar. Like when they are not in tune with their own emotions, any emotion from any source, whether it is from himself or from others, he will not feel comfortable facing them. And then he will try to shut it down. Like, for example, if it is within himself, he feels something, then he will be, oh, just brush it off. I'm a man. I need to carry on with my life. And if it is in his partner, he would be like, oh, you shouldn't feel this way. Why don't you just calm down, and etc. And so for men in this kind of patterns, what's important is that he also starts to develop an inner relationship with his own emotions. So what this looks like is also him being more curious. Like, for example, if he feels something and he immediately has a part of their voice that is, oh, you shouldn't feel this way because you're a man, and etc. If he could put on hold this critical inner voice for a second and then come from a place of curiosity, like, okay, why is it that I am feeling this way right now? What is it that I actually really need or want? And then go deeper, a little bit deeper, sit a little bit longer with the emotion. And it might not be just in a one day, because it can take time to really reprogram ourselves, like get used to a new way of facing our own emotions. So when a man gets more and more comfortable and understanding of his own emotions, so now he's more and more familiar with the nature of emotions, then he can begin to feel more and more comfortable with a woman's emotion, or with just really anyone's emotions. Because the more comfortable he is with dealing with his own emotions, he now also understands how he can deal with other people's emotions. So, for example, if he's feeling overwhelmed with certain emotions and he knows how to be with himself and then even say encouraging things or be there really, then he can also learn how to be encouraging and be there for others as well when other people are struggling with their emotions, instead of also wanting to run away. So with these skills, like how you develop your relationship, like how your inner voice talks to different parts of yourself, can teach you a lot really on how you can do relationship challenges. And so you might also ask, so what about the critical voice? What do we do with it? Because it's been very present. And I would say, don't just ignore them, because it has been there for a reason. And what I did, for example, in my own case, and what I also saw what some other people did, is that because this critical voice of, oh, maybe you're being too much, maybe you shouldn't be like this, you should be like that, it is a voice that is developed by your subconscious to actually protect you. It's your brain to actually learn how to protect you, even if it is actually not a very efficient way of protection, because it is like affecting your self-esteem, your self-worth. But for example, what I did with my own voice is that I appreciated it. I was grateful for its existence. And I was like, thank you so much for protecting me all this time, for guiding me really, and trying to do the best for me. And right now, because this is not the best way to do it anymore. So let's change that. And if it is still bringing me points of concern, then I would listen also from a place of curiosity, like, why do I feel insecure? Why do I feel afraid? And why do I worry about being rejected? And then I start to understand it more and more, and then present beliefs that contradicts these limiting beliefs that are going on. For example, oh, I'm afraid that if I talk about wanting dates, he might reject me because in the past my I was rejected before. And then I would start to have another voice that I developed, like, but is it true that this time I would also get rejected? Because I can always learn to express in a different way. If I learn to have a better relationship and validate my own needs and desires so that my energy of expression will be clean, because I will be more natural, will be more confident, instead of being in this scarcity that, oh, he probably won't say yes. And now I feel more and more natural in the way that I express. And if I know how to express now, because I learned a lot in my past years to how to express my needs and desires in a healthier manner. And if me and my partner are having really this good dynamic, this good relationship, why wouldn't I give it a try right now? And I can also trust that if in case he resists at first, we can always have better communication and work through it and work through understanding each other. Like, why would he resist? Because, for example, let's say that if I want flowers and my partner doesn't want to give me flowers, and then we can understand why is it that he doesn't want to give me flowers, because I had a past partner that actually doesn't give flowers, not because he is not romantic or so resisting about the idea, but because he was very spiritual and giving flowers would mean killing them, and he didn't like killing, and he would rather offer me a pot of flowers than the dying flowers in his perspective. So when we have these insecurities, like, oh, maybe he won't say yes, maybe he will reject me, and then deep down we discover that, oh, because I'm afraid that he doesn't really love me enough, he doesn't care for me enough, then I can challenge it. But is it really true what I'm feeling? Or is it just some residual insecurity, or an insecurity that I thought might be possible, but it's actually not true? And yeah, so even with the critical voice, I also have a good relationship with them. I don't just dismiss them like, hey, you're worrying too much and etc. Because now I'm just replicating another critical voice to target this critical voice, right? But I can always ask, hey, okay, I understand the concern, but can you explain it more to me? What is the underlying deeper concern that you have? And then we go there, we go deeper and deeper, and then unravel it, and then we will discover that deep down most of us want connection but are afraid of rejection. And then we can just be there for a bit and be gentle. If your best friend feels this way, what would you say to her? How would you show love for her to nourish her, right? So this can be really, really important, and it can change really the way that you interact, not only with yourself, but in your relationships as well. So my name is Monica, and welcome to Blooming Feminine Academy.